Greetings, Stalkers, and welcome back to the Grymm Mansion. My name is Abominathan, the kind of doctor that apples are scared of. And I'm joined tonight and all nights by my despised co-host.
Weird Eldritch, the inescapable stalker.
Tonight we're going back to a special time, the year 2000. You remember the year 2000?
I do.
It was weird.
Yeah, we had the Y2K scare that actually didn't affect us much.
Yeah, I actually wasn't aware of it. I only knew that people were panicking after like way later, like years later after I got my first contact with the iPhone.
But there's something else that people were panicking about, and that was death.
And airplanes.
Well, not yet.
Although, right.
Quite yet.
It's yeah. Let's get to it. So, yeah. Tonight we talk about Final Destination. The candles are lit, the circles have been closed, and the words of power have been recited. Let's begin tonight's gathering. I just want to go ahead and say, I think this movie could not be made today. No, that's not what I meant to say. Because this movie was made
way.
Right, because this movie was made in 2000, and it's
a pre 9/11 world.
Exactly,
and
it starts off with the setup, which is a plane crash. And so, if it had been delayed by 1 year, it would have completely bombed, and you would not have gotten any other Final
If it was made 2 years later, probably it wouldn't have made any sense, like in the way that was presented.
Yeah. So it's interesting because it arrived just in time before the premise would have been completely messed up. Right, let's get into it.
So we have essentially a spring break, if I'm not mistaken, class that is going to Paris in a maybe a senior trip. I'm not really sure which one is it, but regardless, our the main character in this one here, Alex, he has a vision of the plane exploding right on takeoff, like right after taking off.
So this character, from what I can tell, he's like really emotive. You could call him paranoid, but I wouldn't say. It's more like he's very in tune with the I don't want to say the astral plane, but like with symbolism and
He's
like
sensitive
these
somehow.
Yeah, with all these patterns that are going on, that are happening, like these numbers that are repeating. And so yeah, you can see that they're boarding the plane, and he's kind of uneasy about the whole thing. But yes, when they sit, so it's Alex, his I'm assuming his best friend Todd, and then it's Clear, and then it's also kind of this kind of asshole guy Carter, and his girlfriend Terry, and a bunch of other kids who are in their class. He also got their two teachers, Valerie and the other guy that I forgot his name. Regardless, Alex has this premonition. Alex and Terry, I think, switch seats so that Alex is with Todd and Terry is with Clear. And he notices that the seat, the airplane seat in front of him, has what's the name? That table, the foldable table, is slightly broken. He doesn't really think too much about it at the time. But yes, he sees the plane taking off. Everybody's like cheering, and then suddenly,
it's a series of freak events that eventually end up with the plane having its side blown off and exploding midair.
Yeah, it's just, the amount of things that happen in such a short amount of time is actually kind of insane.
And when the blast wave reaches Alex, he wakes up sweating
Mm-hmm.
before he even gets to switch seats with the girls.
Yep.
And this is the moment where he freaks out. He essentially has a panic attack.
Because if it was just the premonition, maybe he wouldn't have said anything. But the fact that he predicted the table was indeed broken.
Everything was in the same order.
Exactly. And so he freaks out. He says, like, the plane's going to blow up. He starts screaming.
Carter stops him from ruining the trip before it even begins. So they get kicked off the plane. A bunch of people get kicked off the plane because of the scuffle.
Yeah, all the
even
people
the
that I
two
mentioned.
teachers, everyone in the aisle standing up is kicked off. And well, I guess they decide to leave one of the teachers in the plane so they can go with the kids. And outside, when they're still fighting about this, the plane does explode. And everyone is just fallen silent because how could he know? Then the FBI gets involved because, well, why did the plane explode? Obviously, there's an investigation about everything. The most important thing is that the investigation is inconclusive for now, and it's going to be for some more time. I think even in the days that follow, I think it's the school waits 1 day per each dead student before they hold a memorial service for everyone.
Yep.
And just as Alex's best friend mourns the death of his brother, there's this parallel that's being drawn. Like they have a conversation about how he's not giving up on life, and then later that night, a series of freak accidents end up killing him in a way that appears that he killed himself, like that he committed suicide by hanging.
Yeah, he trips on some water that was coming out of the toilet, and he wraps his neck around a rope that was holding the shower curtain, something like that. Yeah, it's crazy. And then
the most interesting thing in this is that the freak accident is not a freak accident. You know, the things that are happening follow Todd until they happen, until he falls prey to the strap. It's a theme throughout the movie that death is inescapable, but they're showing us Death's plan very, very tongue-in-cheek this way.
The water that came out, like, it was like it's moving like it's alive. And then after Todd's death, the water slowly comes back into the tap. Like it's being controlled by something, some force.
And, well, knowing this, Alex and Clear, who clearly believes him regarding this whole thing, she left the plane. He didn't have to. Yeah. She voluntarily left the plane because she felt Alex's plea somehow.
Yeah, and he saved her. So she's forever grateful to him also for that reason.
So they break in the morgue to examine Todd's body by themselves to prove that he didn't, in fact, kill himself.
And then the Candyman shows up.
Stop. You wish.
It's the same.
It is the same actor indeed. Tony Todd.
And the way he talks to them, and after they kind of look at the body, they realize that clearly it wasn't a suicide. Like it wasn't intended, because clearly he had been like grasping at the throat. And this the Candyman, the mortician
William,
he talks exactly like Death. I'm just saying, like this guy, in my mind, he's Death. But okay, whatever.
I understand. He speaks of Death's plan.
Like he knows more than a mortal would. Like he sounds like a stalker, like one of us, when he's talking.
I agree.
He explains that there's a design for everyone, and that when you cheat the design, or when you discover it, and when you manage to, I guess, break out of that loop.
You have to find the pattern.
Yes, there are patterns that kind of show you that. If you find the pattern and you cheat death, then death cheats back. After they kind of leave, because they're startled, they leave, and the last thing that he says is, "I'll see you soon," when he points to Alex before he closes the door, which is funny.
Alex and Clear are in a cafe, and they're discussing like what to do with this information. When Carter and
Terry
show up, and Carter can't get over it, so he decides to stop and bully Alex over what happened again. And Terry is castrating him, obviously, for what he's doing. And if you want to keep living
Hopefully
the
not
rest of your
literally.
life, metaphorically speaking.
Castricizing, you mean?
Yeah, castricizing. That's the word.
That's the word.
She's essentially saying, if you want to live the rest of your life going after Alex, you can do it by yourself because I'm done. And she really was, because a bus just runs over her.
Not even over, like it's just like out of frame, turns, and then poof, like they just even like a splash of blood and everything. They're shocked by this, watching somebody just suddenly die in front of them. But interestingly enough, all these events, so Todd's death and now Terry's death, have been following signs. Like there's always been signs that Alex sees. Patterns like reflections, or Todd's death was kind of
there's always
announced
omens.
to him. Yeah, there's always things that happen, like these weird kind of coincidences that happen, and they show what happened to him. The design being revealed to him.
Mm-hmm. Eventually is revealed that the cause of the explosion was by a freak accident, and they show a graph of the sequence of explosions, and they make a pattern, as we've been talking about. And Alex is kind of able to draw this pattern on a piece of paper and put everybody in their seats to figure out
the order in which they died.
Yeah, the order in which they died.
They would have died, theoretically.
Yeah,
correct. And so he realizes
in the order
Todd was first.
They will die.
Yeah, Todd was first, and then Terry, and it matches. Again, another pattern. It matches the pattern of that with which they've been dying. So he realizes he can predict who's going to be next.
Yeah, and he thinks that Miss Luton, the teacher that stayed, is next.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
And it's hilarious because she gets in a situation in which her house is on fire, and she ends up stabbing herself.
Yeah, but before that, so the police are really not after, but like they're really curious about Alex at this point. Like they even mention like the patterns, because Alex says there are patterns, and then the policeman is like, "Oh yeah, I can see a pattern very clearly happening. I don't know if you could see it too." Kind of joking to him that like he's been every death that's been happening, he's been there, which is really weird.
Mm-hmm.
His best friend dies, and now it's
Miss Luton. He thinks that Miss Luton is about to die.
Yeah, he thinks that Miss Luton is
if you don't let me go, somebody's gonna die.
Mm-hmm. And so he's like, okay, then go.
He asks the cop even asks him like, if I let you go, do you assure me that no one else is going to die?
Yeah, because like they can't really. Yeah, they can't really frame him for anything because they don't have any evidence that he's behind this. But it is weird that he's always there. He always knows somehow.
Until now. Because back in the what I was describing, she has this kitchen knife in her belly that he's like, oh my God, like I want to help you. And then grabs the knife, pulls it out of her body, and is like, oh, what have I done?
You idiot!
Immediately drops it and starts running away. Bloody footprints everywhere. Obviously, someone sees him flee the scene, and is reported to.
Yeah, now he's on the run because now the cops are after him. I mean, seriously, after all of this, no one's gonna believe him that he's not the one causing these deaths. Carter is like mourning the death of his girlfriend. He's like carving her name on like a pole or something. And then Clear comes up to him and says basically like, we have to find Alex because he knows how to. He's the key. Like he knows how to fix this or how to avoid more deaths. And they also are with Billy somehow. And so the three of them, Billy, Carter, and Clear, go for Alex. Clear finds Alex and they have like a conversation. She reveals that like her parents died, or her father died, at least. And just, this kind of emotional moment of like the nature of death and all that stuff. And then the three of them are on the car, and Carter is like, okay, Alex, then who's next? Yeah, right, because Alex explains to them how he's able to predict. He shows the map of the seats and all that, and he says like this is in theory the order in which people will die, and so far it's been proven true. And Carter's like, well, who's the next person? And Alex doesn't say anything, and he's like, well,
if you're not saying anything, it's because it's me.
Yeah.
And then he starts going completely nihilist,
he starts speeding. And he's like, nobody decides how I die. I decide how I die. And so now he's kind of gone crazy.
He eventually stops the car in a train track, and the oncoming train is coming right at him. They all leave the car except for Carter, who's like, at this moment, now that I'm faced with death, I actually can't escape because his seatbelt jams.
Yeah, at first he's kind of like defying death. He's kind of like... I guess feeling sort of a rush when he's like decided like, it's not my time. Like he's kind of like trying to toy with death, and then he realizes, oh, my seatbelt's stuck. And so Alex can only barely grab through the window, pull Carter out, and the two of them just barely dodge the train as it passes.
So with the next person out, the train's still coming. Billy gets decapitated.
It's like a piece of like metal is propelled by the train and chops Billy's head. It's very weird. And so apparently Death, seeing that it was unable to get Carter, just skips to the next person apparently and took Billy instead.
And now Alex believes he's the next one in the cycle, and so Clear takes him to her family's cabin. And he locks like the next. It seems to us like the next few days, hiding in there.
Yeah, he's prepared. He's wearing gloves. He has barricaded every window, every door. Locked it with just everything. He has the lamp. He puts the lamp on top of a water container so that I guess the flame doesn't has no way to escape. And then he only eats canned food with a plastic spoon. It's really funny that
he's doing everything to avoid it, and every little thing that he avoids, like injury, he's like, "Oh, I got you again, Death." But that's the moment he actually realizes that he switched seats with someone, so he's not in fact next. Claire is next.
Yep.
And this is when leaves the house and is being pursued by the FBI, the cops, while he's trying to save Clear, who is trapped inside her car, and like the car's burning. There's loose electrical cables everywhere. The gasoline, there's a gasoline leak, and everything's about to go very wrong. Just in time for Alex to grab the cables and make like some sort of ultimate sacrifice, so she can escape before the car actually explodes.
Yeah, he kind of electrocutes himself or lets himself be exploded.
Because if she were to touch the door handle, she would have gotten electrocuted because the car's all metal, but the tires are rubber, so the car's grounded. If she touches the handle, she's no longer grounded. So the car explodes and knocks away Alex, who we find out later survives.
Yeah, the three of them apparently, like, I guess the freak accidents, quote unquote, stopped from that point on. And it's been a couple months. I'm not entirely sure. Did they say how much time has passed? 6 months later.
6 months later.
6 months have passed, and they're all so the three of them, and now I guess right, because at some point Claire started calling Alex babe. I don't know if
that they're dating
when they started dating, because I didn't. I missed
maybe
that.
After he saved their life twice.
I don't know. I mean, there are women who call people babe.
I'm
just
not
randomly.
really sure that's what they're implying in the movie, but
I don't know. Truth is, now they're dating. and Carter is with them in. Are they in Paris?
Yes,
Yes, they
in
are in
Paris,
Paris. Sure,
ironically.
they did. They did come. Finally, I guess they overcame their fear of flying, so that's good. And they're kind of talking like, oh, they're drinking at a bar. I'm like, wow, like, it's crazy that I guess we broke the cycle. I guess we're free now. Clear's like, maybe we were meant to live. And Carter is like, nah, I think, you know what? I think we're still next. I think Alex is still next.
And he was right, because Alex starts seeing all these omens again.
Yeah, he, like, as I guess maybe Death was just waiting for them to talk about it again and for Alex to whip out the piece of papers again. And Alex starts feeling things. He kind of.
I need to go. I
so,
need to return some videotapes, kind of deal.
I think it was Carter who was like, maybe the design is so that, like, maybe we were supposed to be exactly in this moment right now. Maybe it's part of the design. And yeah, he gets out of the and he runs away, and a sign kind of breaks, like one of those big neon signs breaks, and it almost hits Alex. Carter just saves him at the last second. And then
Yeah, Carter is like, "Oh, so I saved you, right? It's over
Saved you.
because death
And
death actually is trying to kill you, and now that it
Yeah.
didn't skip you, now it skipped you."
And now he says, "Who's next?"
next?
And Alex is like, "You."
No, the sign, we just see the sign coming back towards him before
It just waves back around.
swings back around. Yeah, just before the movie cuts to black.
Yeah, that's how the movie ends.
Easiest analysis there is like, nobody can escape death, and the movie is about our futile attempts to do so, right? I think there's this primordial fear. It's not even a fear, it's an instinct of preserving your life. And human society has this taboo of even talking about death. So, the movie just explores that.
Yeah, that is one way of seeing it. Yeah, I honestly think that this movie could have been better if they really. Honestly, it's really difficult to.
Because it's a mix of a slasher and a more supernatural horror movie.
It's like there's a bit of like paranormal stuff. There's a bit of like psychological stuff, kind of.
But in its essence, it's the slasher where the killer is never shown.
Well, the killer is Death.
Yeah, exactly.
Is our boy Thanatos.
But it's never shown.
Mm-hmm.
The movie plays exactly like a slasher movie if you look at it.
It does. Yeah.
And it's super interesting to see it at work without a killer to put a face on it, to point at and say, like, he's right there, right? They're just escaping accidents or falling prey to accidents. And I think that it's a very, very smart concept that was, well executed for the time. It was probably not very well received, but at the same time, it did very well in box office. I'm pretty sure.
I mean, they made a bunch of these,
and exactly, and they made many more. I think this year that we're talking about it, a new movie is coming out that is supposed to explore the identity of William, the mortician.
Nice. Yeah, about the execution, I'm.
It's okay. It's alright.
I'm kind of torn with it because I feel like this could have gone like if you just like first of all the movie, like 50% of it is just setup. It has a extremely long setup,
and the movie is not that
and in
big,
my opinion,
honestly. The movie is rather short.
True, but in my opinion, that's the best part of the movie. I think the setup is really good. this whole idea of, yeah, there's the design, so everyone has a design, but there are patterns that you can see, and if you, in the case of Alex, who is I guess a very, it's never really explained why he's able to see this stuff. It's kind of just like hand waved, like, oh, he's just like
Just
really
very perceptive.
in tune with it. Yeah, he's just like he's I guess he's sort of like yeah, somewhat of a psychic kinda in a way. Although he's,
The
you know,
movie
he's not
is
using it to
supernatural,
scam people.
but if you don't want to go in the supernatural route, he just seems perceptive, you know? He's just noticing things.
Yeah, and this idea that if he hadn't seen it, they would have all died in that accident, in that explosion, and so he is cheated death, and it gives us this feeling, like that was really well done, is like feeling this, because man, it is scary to be trapped in a vehicle that you have no way of getting out of. Like, you're completely like once that shit explodes, it's over for you. Like, or anything, if it falls, like, and it is a very common fear, the fear of flying, and it makes sense. You know, it's pretty it's kind of scary, as I said, like being stuck in that metal vehicle, in the metal tube in the air, and the movie plays into that really well. Very common fear. And the whole idea of, like, there's a lot of people in real life who are paranoid of patterns, and like they start seeing these patterns of like, oh, like this number is the same as the number of, because you know, in the movie they even kind of touch that his birthday is the same as the flight number or the boarding number, things like this, and there are people in real life who are like paranoid about this, and maybe it's because of this movie, I don't know. But I feel like they were before.
Oh yes, this movie also definitely began generational irrational fears of a lot of things, not just flight, but for the later sequels.
Yes, and using accidents, because like accidents happen all the time. Planes crash all the time, and
roller coasters crash all the time.
Yeah, you could be in one of those. Like there's no reason why you are or are not in that plane when it falls. It's completely random. So the only thing that's deterministic is really just this design. Like, things just, I guess, happen this way.
Yeah, one way or another, you will reach that final destination.
Exactly. And it's interesting to play into this idea. What if you could know in advance what your design is, how you're going to die? What would you do? And how would you react to that? I guess that's the core premise of the movie, of this whole series. And that's really good. I really like that. But I feel like they took this, because, so at first it feels really interesting, even though, you know, it's kind of exaggerated and over the top, the way that at least the premonition happens. Like, it is a premonition, so it might be exaggerated. I don't know. But then later in the movie, we realize, no, this is just how this series is. Like, they die in the most extreme and like unlikely ways, and I feel like that's something that, well, it's the icon of the movie. It's the thing that sets it apart from other movies, I guess. It's, you know, this death, it's what people remember it for.
Yeah.
And I guess, you know, they did a good job in that sense. Personally, I think it kind of takes away from the fear. To me, it's just kind of goofy, in my opinion. Like, I don't feel fear necessarily when I watch these movies. I just feel like I'm just trying to, like, and maybe that's the point. Maybe I think what they're trying to do is kind of, they're trying to play with the expectation of the person who's watching, because they know that we know that this character is going to die. So the game is, how are they going to die? When we try to look at it and we try to predict it, and then the movie kind of just does a rug pull and suddenly kills the character in a completely different way. So maybe that's it. Maybe there's like this game happening between the movie and the audience. And maybe that's why, it's part of the reason why it becomes so goofy and over the top.
And not to mention, this was supposed to be an X-Files episode.
Oh yeah, that's true.
You can see how well it fits because of the two FBI agents that are always following the weird kid around. You essentially just flip the script from following Murnau and Wagner characters, and it would have fit well, possibly.
Yep.
It was still in time,
But I guess it was too long.
You can like, okay, it was probably rewritten to fit of a longer format.
Yeah. But yeah, it definitely would have worked as an X-Files episode. But then they decided to go cinematic, and well, it worked. It worked for them. I'm saying, like,
it doesn't really matter budget than
yeah, it doesn't really matter what we think. It clearly was successful because they made a ton of these movies. So, you know, in terms of success, we can't really deny that it was successful. So,
agreed.
We can critique it all you want, but oh, I wanted to talk about one more thing about the this interpretation, because you talked about like death is the slasher, is the stalker of the series.
Yeah.
And it plays exactly like a slasher in that sense. It is interesting because death really is like a character in these movies. It has a lot of
they talk about it in like in anthropomorphized ways. You know, they refer to it as a person, something that's following them and killing them systematically. And it's even more interesting. I'm sorry to interrupt you, but it's really quick. In the sequel, the only person that survived, if I'm not mistaken, the only person that survived was the Clear.
Oh,
I think.
Well, I didn't watch the second one, but it's interesting because yeah, it has personality, it has character. It's definitely a character. You can't deny that it is. Death is one of the characters in this movie.
Yeah.
Yet it doesn't have a physical form at all. It doesn't have anything. It doesn't have. It's just death. It's just.
You know what it is. You are mostly familiar with it. We are all familiar with it. It doesn't need to have a face. It doesn't need to. And the producers have come out and said that the mortician is not death, even though we like to disagree on that. But apparently, this movie is going to answer some questions. So we'll see.
Okay, but it's interesting in the context of other. So I guess that is the most unique thing about the movie in the context of other interpretations, because there's a lot. There's, you know, obviously death is one of the most one of the most popular themes in everything, in fiction and in everything, because it happens to all of us. Not all of us, but you know. And so it's interesting to see the depiction of death in these movies, how it differs from other depictions, because a lot, you know, for the longest time, death has been, I guess it still comes from the Black Plague, the Black Death, you know, that and you know the skeleton with the dark cloak and the big scythe. That's the very standardized interpretation of death. But it's interesting how in those depictions, even in like the what's that movie in black and white from that Swedish guy, The Seventh Seal. There we go. So so in The Seventh Seal, character death is one of the characters, but from what I can tell, death is just doing its job in a lot of these interpretations. Like, even though death has like a physical manifestation, it's always just kind of doing its job. It doesn't really do anything other than just reaping the souls when they're ripe, I guess, when they're due. And so it's interesting that in the Final Destination, death does not have a physical manifestation, yet it does do a lot more. It actually it's more active than in other interpretations where
I'm also pretty sure that in that game, death cheats in the game of chess that it has with Antonius.
Kind of. It's more like this idea that
regardless, it's the same idea. You really can't win.
Yeah. So it's interesting to draw the parallels. It's just two very different ways of depicting the same concept, and it's interesting to look at it that way. But yeah, it's pretty goofy in my opinion, the ways that they die, very over the top, but I guess that's their brand, thing that sets it thing that makes it memorable. So in that way, yeah, it succeeds doing that. And yeah.
And yeah. I guess that's it then.
Mm-hmm. Man, like a 7.
I was going for a little bit lower.
Or yeah, 6 maybe. 6.5. 6.5 fans. 6.5 tickets.
Honestly, I have nothing. I don't want to make jokes with exploding planes or I'm not feeling risky enough today.
Risque.
Whatever you want to call it. You know, I don't speak French.
Well, neither do I.
Okay then.
The candles are out. The circles have been erased. And we will let silence reign again. The Grymm Mansion is closing its gates. Have a most horrible night. And we'll see you next time.
Toodaloo.